This man was a young prison guard who had just accepted his position, but the day before he officially started working, he was mistaken for a prisoner and was locked up in prison. As a result, he was in prison. In less than a week, he actually became more prisoner, became a murderer, his hands stained red with blood, even motivating all the prisoners to break out in a riot, and became their spiritual leader. Filled with indignation and negotiating with high-ranking officials, government officials requested the state to pay more attention to the lives of prisoners in this prison. What did you have to go through to change so dramatically? Please everyone, watch the movie. This is a super cool action. This man name is Don. He is really unlucky as a new prison guards, so he actively took the initiative to go to prison a day in advance to visit and want to understand the processes, work here. But Dong Engip told him that the prisoner in here were guilty of murder and about to be executed. Others had terminal cancer and were about to die, so they were not afraid of anything and were extremely scared. During the dangerous period, the old prison guard advised Don three sincere things. One is not to trust anyone. Don't forget that the place you are working in is the last prison, and never let the prisoner see your fear in what you just said. After that, suddenly there was a loud noise and a piece of concrete fell from the ceiling. Unfortunately, it hit Don on the head, causing him to collapse. The situation was critical, so his colleagues immediately helped him into cell number 211, which was vacant, to give first aid. They were about to call a doctor. At that moment, prison boss Lucas pulled out a small metal stick from his mouth. He quickly removed the handcuffs and then took the opportunity to strangle the prison guards after getting the key. Boss Lucas immediately let all his juniors out. The prisoner rushed out of the cell like a swarm of bees. The prison guards heard the warning bell and immediately ran away in panic, dropping his pants, leaving Don alone and helpless, because if the prisoners were caught, they would definitely be tortured to death. The prison assistant, Track, saw that the situation was uncontrollable, so he ordered the warden to tightly lock the door next to the corridor and block the inside completely. The male lead was still in cell number 211. At this time, a prisoner discovered Don because he had never seen his face prison before, so he became suspicious and walked out of the cell. To find Mr. Lucas, Don quickly regained his composure and looked out the door to know that there had been in the prison. If his identity as a prison guard was exposed, it would definitely not have a good ending. My head was spinning thinking that now the only way to survive was to pretend to be a prisoner, only to see him quickly take off his shoes and throw them in the toilet, his belt and wallet hidden under the bed. Finally, he took off his wedding ring because of this thing definitely has no way of appearing on prisoners. At that moment, the guy in the hat from before came to take Don out of damn room. Now the entire prison is like a mess of vandals and arson everywhere. Everywhere the male lead was brought in front of a hairy-mouthed man who looked like my boss. Lucas asked Don where he came from, remembering the old warden advice. He immediately showed off his acting talent. Don looked straight into his opponent's eyes, calm and calm. He said he was guilty of attempted murder and was a murderer. So today he was escorted here to remove the do 19 Gwyn Lee, but the hairy-mouthed man saw his soft and smooth flesh. His first reaction was, of course, I don't believe that you're not like a murderer and you don't have the guts to hurt a fly. Did you think you were a psychiatrist in this prison? Why did Don's arrogant appearance make Lucas completely let go? Let your guard down. But the new recruits cannot avoid being harassed. In this prison are not allowed to wear superhero shorts, so the boss immediately forced the male lead to strip naked to check the shorts, but they were nowhere to be found. But I only saw an eagle that was both big and terrible. Fortunately, this morning, my wife washed the clothes and hadn't dried them yet, but the new superhero pants that she bought didn't fit the size of the eagle. It's true that you a genius, except later, Lucas ordered all security camera inside the prison to be broken, which also meant cutting off all contact with the world around him. The difficulty revealed the wisdom. Don told Lucas to leave a camera like that. We will easily negotiate with the prison guards. He felt that this idea was not a bad idea and also realized that the young man in front of him had brains and understanding, unlike other big-headed and small-minded people in the prison. This DOA picked up a torn piece of cloth, then climbed the fence to the camera position, looked into the lens, signaled to the prison guards outside that he was temporarily safe, then immediately covered the camera. This guy is so smart, they are so smart, was tricked by Don into thinking he was a prisoner, while special forces had surrounded the entire prison and could at any time open fire to destroy the violent prisoner. However, Lucas was in control. Three very important characters act as negotiating cards. They are all members of an extremist organization in Spain, so they have an extremely sensitive status. If they die in prison, it will cause chaos to soccer at that time. The Democrats and human rights group will create a color revolution that will leave the country in flames. Lucas, facing the camera, voiced his demands, hoping to improve the condition in this prison. Over the years, they have often been abused by prison guards. The treatment was no different from that of prisoners who were previously locked in cell number 211. At first, They only had a mild stomach ache, but because they lived in conditions of lack of medical care and poor quality of life, the cancer eventually became unbelievable. The torment of pain leads to death as a release. An ordinary cigarette in the hands of a desperate prisoner can also become a number weapon. First, he bites the cotton filter in the cigarette and uses it to light it. The fire was heated until it was shaped into a blade, then placed on the table and sharpened again and again. Very quickly, a sharp weapon was finished, but did not use it to escape from prison, but to end his life in prison. He had a tumor growing on his head, but the unscrupulous doctor in this prison said he had hemorrhoids. Before he died, he carved his final denial on the wall. This is just one of many tragedies taking place in prison. In Spain, the prisoner inside are extremely cruel, but the prison guards are not good people, mistreating prisoners year after year and not considering them as human beings with their own intelligence. Quickly won the trust of the furry worm, but this made Lucas' previously trusted prisoner, Ernesto, extremely jealous. He secretly told his subordinate Tara to secretly investigate Don Tara identity immediately. Returning to the cell, he pulled out a phone from the box and the other end of the line was an employee of this prison. It turned out that Tara was the prison guards who was installed as an insider, so he also knew Don's true identity.
On the other side, prison staff came to negotiate with Mr. Lucas. The male protagonist took the opportunity to search him and reveal important intelligence information about the hostages in the laundry room. Then he gave the negotiator a piece of paper writing down the prisoner demands before he left. Lucas suddenly remembered that Don had a wife who was 1 month pregnant, so he temporarily added a request that was for Don. After leaving with the negotiations, he did not expect that this hairy insert would be very kind to the male lead. This was a great opportunity to escape, but at this moment, a noisy sound suddenly came from inside the prison. Lucas immediately took the negotiator hostage and told Don to run to check the situation. It turned out that 2 prisoners had had a conflict, causing one guy to go up to the altar to watch the naked, and the prison guards through the camera did not understand clearly, thinking that the 3 extremist hostages had been killed. Don quickly ordered the special forces to rush in to enforce the situation at the moment when a bloody battle was about to happen. Still, Don reacted promptly and heroically. He quickly ran to the room where the 3 hostages were locked and quickly brought them in front of the camera to show the prison guards that thanks to that, the special forces soldiers stopped the suppression action. Just like that, the bloody war had been turned into a made protagonist. Immediately released the prisoners and applauded Don as a hero, but he was still very clear-headed and intelligent and ran back, raising his arm full of the smell of Mr. Lucas' armpit to show that he was the one worthy of this professional action. Indeed, not everyone can handle it tactfully, but Lucas still felt threatened by the male lead to his position as his boss. He hugged Don's head and gave a wearing, "You did well this time, but if you do it on your own, if you decide like that again, I'll put you in that saucer right away." The riot was considered peaceful, but news of the deadly accident in the prison was very quickly. It reported on the news. The prisoner family immediately pulled over, standing tightly outside the prison door. Don's wife, unable to contact him, also appeared in the crowd, impatiently asking about her husband's situation. At this time, Chief Warden Rio was still sitting in his office leisurely drinking wine. Suddenly, a stone was thrown at someone like him who often mistreated prisoners. The riot was considered peaceful, but news of the deadly accident in the prison was very quickly. It reported on the news. The prisoner family immediately pulled over, standing tightly outside the prison door. Don's wife, unable to contact him, also appeared in the crowd, impatiently asking about her husband's situation. At this time, Chief Warden Rio was still sitting in his office leisurely drinking wine. Suddenly, a stone was thrown at someone like him who often mistreated prisoners. The person in charge of the prison to save his wife, but he did not expect the other party to decisively cut off the signal, causing them to they didn't see anything. But at that moment, the prison guards risked more blood than his brain and accidentally hit Don's wife, causing her to fall to the ground unconscious. Sao Tang's pregnant wife was seriously injured and had to be taken to the hospital. At the emergency hospital, Don in prison did not know anything. He used the walkie-talkie to ask the prison guards about his wife's situation and asked to connect to talk to her, but the other party said that his wife had died, out of danger and in need of rest. However, Don sensed that something was wrong, so he asked Lucas to let him go out to visit his wife, but the boss said that you are not the only with relatives outside later. Lucas felt a little guilty about that, so he went to see Don privately to confide in him. When everything is over, say that he was forced to participate in this riot and that the furry-mouthed man will bear all the blame, so he won't be fined a few more books and can return to Don's family. After hearing this, he was suddenly moved. High-ranking officials outside see him as a chess piece, but prisoners in prison really see him as a chess piece. I'm a brother. Right now Ernesto gave Lucas the list of injured prisoners, but there were only 4 names. Boss. After reading it, he was clearly angry. Yesterday the prison guards beat people very brutally, And the actual number must certainly be many times higher to relieve the resentment. Lucas decided to kill a hostage, but Don did not want to do so because the special forces would attack inside, causing many people to die. It better to cut off one of the hostage's ears so that the prison guards will know what to fear. Ernesto soon saw the eye shield and directly gave Gu dagger to the male lead and asked him to handle it himself because of the forced situation, so Don had no choice but to do it. When he finished, he immediately washed away the blood stains on his hands. It was extremely complicated. He had never done anything bad before, but at this moment he had to commit a crime. Suddenly, the man in the hat rushed in and led Don to a room, the prison, where he had a stern face waiting for him. Don was a little panicked, thinking that his identity as a prison guard had been exposed. But what was waiting for him was news even more devastating. Tara pulled out her phone. Inside, there was a scene showing his wife being brutally beaten by the riot warden. Witnessing this scene, the male lead was completely angry. The moments in the video were like stabs cutting into his heart. The fire of revealed was burning brightly. In Don's heart, I want to meet him very quickly. Prisoner Rio appeared inside the prison. Lucas used a dagger to force him downstairs and lead him in front of male lead, holding the phone and smashing his profile picture to question him. Why did you assault a pregnant woman to the point of having to be hospitalized? Don took out the walkie-talkie and asked the prison warden to let him talk to his wife about coming here so the prison warden could no longer hide it. The other person told Don that his wife and unborn child could no longer be saved. After hearing this, the male lead completely collapsed. He just wanted to work well so that his wife and children could have a better life. But now there's nothing left. Lucas hugged Don tightly to comfort him while the other inmates all focused their angry eyes on Rio prison guard. They enragedly surrounded him and beat him mercilessly to release their hatred for Don. Who would have thought that the prison guards was a wretched man, because in order to save his life, he revealed Don's true identity. He is a prison guard. He is not a prisoner. You guys were fooled by him, you idiots. At this moment, Don completely lost all reason. He held a piece of glass in his hand, then rushed forward and slashed Rio's neck with a basic cut while not calming down. He had truly become a murderer. Don desperately wanted to end his life, but his back was broken. He looked at the denial the cancer prisoner had previously written on the wall. The injustice of the old man, combined with the death of his wife and children, made Don clearly see the faces of the prison guards. He not only took revenge, but also had to fight for the right of the prisoners. The main male prisoner dragged the body of the chief warden to the first floor to officially declare war on the institutions of this prison. If we do not publicize the dark deeds of the prison guards and improve the quality of life of the prisoners, then when they came to accept the identity of the three hearts, they had to commit to it in public, eliminate the harsh government regime in the closet under pressure. Outside negotiation experts had to agree, but behind the scenes they were playing petty things. So they concluded, connecting with Lucas via walkie-talkie, he led him to a deserted street in the prison and dropped a file that contained information about Don's true identity. But the furry man still didn't believe Ernesto and Tara after hearing about it. Knowing this, Lucas advised Lucas to eliminate Don. However, the boss said that even if I died, I wouldn't stab my brother behind the back. Okay. Then the bad-mouthed guy came to find Don in the cell. The two of them talked to each other like two close friends. He gave the dagger to the male lead and said he must fight to the end. They went out and discovered that the government had actually publicly promised that it would abolish the control regime in prison. But when everyone was cheering and rejoicing, the situation suddenly changed 360 degrees. Tara suddenly betrayed him, holding a weapon to guard the hostage room and coordinating with the police close outside to suppress the riot. Just like that, a few smoke bombs were dodged inside. The special forces began to attack. Johan and Lucas then reacted. They wanted to kill the hostages, but Tara stole an arrow and shot them. The arrow made the male lead fall to the ground. Lucas tried to save Don, and as a result, he was also hit by an arrow. However, he did not give up resisting but persevered with his oath. Even if he died, he had to fight to the end, or now or forever. There won't be a second time. But the hairy-mouthed boss did not expect that NOI snake. In this prison, the male lead did not survive and was left alone, into a body bag, and Mr. Lucas was seriously injured and was taken to the hospital. While cleaning up the scene, Don's colleagues entered cell 20111 and saw his wedding ring and his final denial on the wall. Is cruel, but still exist within human nature, while the law enforcer who plays the righteous role consider human life as grass. The kind-hearted male lead is forced to become a bad person and eventually dies quietly without anyone knowing his name, but his struggle will always last. This is the end of the movie. Hello and see you again, everyone.